Hey everyone, so in today's video, I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to create a successful community tank. A community tank is defined as any aquarium that has more than one species of fish in it. Generally, a community tank is the end goal for most tropical fish keepers. When you start looking into wanting to create a community tank, it can seem a little bit overwhelming, especially because there's a lot of little things you need to consider. Whether the fish are going to get along, whether your tank is going to be overstocked, what each fish likes, the temperaments of each fish, everything like that. So I thought I'd give you some tips on things that you can do to either ease the stress of your fish, and maybe even ease the stress for yourself a little bit. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So my first tip to a community tank is to start by mixing fish together that are for sure compatible and not dealing with the risky fish until you're more advanced. The number one thing that you need to make sure when you're creating a community tank is that the fish that you have get along. There is always going to be some fish that are a definite, that they can definitely go together. There's going to be some where it's, put them together at your own risk. And then there's going to be some that do not put these together. There are some fish, such as gouramis or tiger barbs, that are very aggressive, and it's actually very difficult to house them with other fish. You can do it, but your choices are limited. Meanwhile, some common community fish, such as a neon tetra or, say, a guppy, can get along with pretty much most fish and work well in most community tanks. Now, my personal recommendation would be to start off with fish that for sure will go together, such as the tetra option. These ones are usually the cheapest fish at a pet store. You'll generally find the most information about them online because they are so common. You will also probably always be able to find them in your local fish shop because they are so common. So the next tip that I have for a community tank is make sure that you keep your tank stocked on the lower side as you get used to your community tank. The stocking of an aquarium basically means how many fish you can put in the aquarium before there are too many fish and too much waste is being produced and it starts to become an unhealthy environment. If your fish tank becomes overstocked, then you can have ammonia problems and also your fish will become stressed. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that your tank is safely stocked. I would personally recommend to only keep it around 50% stocked and maybe even less when you're just starting out. This just allows you to better monitor the fish that you have, how they're getting along, how it's working out, whether or not the additional work that might be there is all right for you, and don't automatically jump to the maximum, but you don't need to keep it at the minimum either. You will probably come across something known as the inch per gallon rule. This is a very, very old rule and is actually outdated in the fish community. For example, a fancy goldfish will grow to be about 2 to 3 inches in length. Now, a goldfish requires a 20-gallon aquarium, at least. Some people will even suggest a 30-gallon aquarium. If you follow the inch per gallon rule, this goldfish would only need a 3-gallon aquarium. So because of that, definitely don't follow that rule. One site that I highly, highly recommend in regards to stocking is something called AQ Advisor. On this site, as you can see on the screen, you can add which fish you have in your tank, how many of them you have, and it will tell you what percentage your tank is stocked at, how it is being filtered. If you put your filter up at the top, it will give you that information as well. And it will tell you at the bottom whether or not those fish are compatible. So all you have to do is go down, find either the scientific name or the street name of your fish and plug it in and everything that it needs to have, and it will tell you whether or not your tank is overstocked. It's just a cool little tool to have and it does work really well. So I would definitely follow this. Now, my next tip that I have for a community tank is to make sure that you add fish slowly and that your tank is already cycled before you go and start a community tank. Whether you choose to do an out of fish cycle or a fish in cycle, either one is perfectly fine. If you're doing a fish in cycle, make sure you only start with one species of fish. I know when you first start off doing a community tank, you have all these visions and you want to add all the fish at once, and I would definitely discourage this. This can kind of cause your tank to go into shock. Every time you add new fish, there is a little bit of an adjustment to the nitrogen cycle. However, if you add too many at once, you can generally have a spike of ammonia because your tank just can't handle it. And ammonia is toxic, so you don't want to have that spiking in your tank if you don't have to. You want to make sure that you're not harming any of the fish that are either currently in your tank or the ones that are being added in. I will also note that it is recommended that you quarantine your fish. How long you quarantine it and how you choose to quarantine it, there's lots of different ways to do it, but A lot of people do strongly recommend quarantining your fish before you add them to your aquarium. So the next tip that I'm going to give you is how to kind of lay out your aquarium so that your fish have the least amount of stress. You want to make sure that your fish always have a place to escape. Now, how you choose to do this is up to you. I like to have just a lot of plants, so my fish can go and hide in the plants if they feel that they need to have a break. I have some floating plants up here in the corner. I'm not sure if you can see them. I have some moss here, and then I've got some driftwood that has a lot of plants around it as well. You can also see throughout the day there'll be certain fish hiding in the areas of plants that I've kind of surrounded for them. And they're able to get away, and then they'll join their school when they feel like it. So that is one way to do it, is just having a lot of plants. But of course, this isn't the only way to do it. You can have this effect with artificial plants, having a lot of silk plants, maybe having some floating plants at the top and some shorter plants on the bottom. Foreground, middle, background. In artificial plants, it still gives them some place to hide. It's just not live. You'll just have to make sure the textures of your plants and the type of fish that you have in your aquarium to make sure that they're safe. Silk is always a good way to go, but there are certainly some plastic plants that work if you have some fish that are okay with them. Pretty much any fish that has long fins though, I'd recommend staying away from any sharp, edgy plastic plants. Another thing that you can use to give your fish some places to hide is simply some hides. Just a large ornament or a small ornament that has a hollow spot that they can either hide in it or swim through it, anything like that they feel like they can hide. That'll be very important to your fish to making sure that they can get away when they want to, and that they aren't forced to kind of be like in each other's bubble all the time. And the last thing that I'm going to touch in regards to your tank setup is the bigger the tank, the better. You want to make sure that it's not fully stocked if you don't have a lot of places for your fish to hide. If they're a little more crowded and they have a spot to hide, it's not that big of a deal. But if your tank is pretty open, then the more open water they have, they can at least spread apart and keep their distance from one another. If your tank is bigger, then you're better to have more success because your fish can get away. Now, the last tip that I'm going to give you might seem kind of obvious, but also maybe not. And that is, it is never wrong to ask for help. There are lots of forums, there's Facebook groups, probably one specifically for your area. You can use these and a lot of people will be eager to help you. So doing your research is very important, but if you can't come across what you need to find, then asking for help in forums is totally okay and recommended. So those are the few tips that I have for hopefully creating a successful community tank. Now, fish keepers are pretty lucky for having pretty much one of the easiest pets to care for, and so when it comes to taking care of a community tank, it's not that complicated. There's just a few things that you want to watch out for to make sure that you can kind of make it as smooth as possible for the fish you're adding and also for yourself. Because I know that if you're having a community tank that isn't working too well, it can be very discouraging and stressful to say the least. But with that being said, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any other tips that I didn't mention in this video, feel free to leave them in the comments down below so that other fish keepers can see them and hopefully you can help them out. If you like this video, then make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, then make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I upload. But that is all for today, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye guys!